Welcome, I'm Bev Adams. I own an independent paper crafting business showcasing products from Stampin' Up! It's November, which means it's almost Christmas, and it is time to be making your Christmas cards. I want to help you get started. Designing Christmas cards for each individual on your Christmas list is a lot of fun, and it might be wonderful for each person. But it will take a lot of time if you start looking at different designs. You can also make the same Christmas card for everybody on your list, and that takes a lot less time. Or maybe, for instance, I've got about 10 or 12 cards of this design, and maybe I'll make 10 or 12 cards of a different design. Honestly, I usually choose one design and send it to just about everybody on my list. So how much time do you have? This is a card I designed earlier this season, and this is really lovely. It's got kind of a fun fold, but it has lots of pieces that need to be stamped and colored and cut out and painstakingly added to the card. Here's another card that's maybe a lot quicker, but using that same set. This is a card that's fairly simple. This is designer series paper, so it's just a matter of cutting it out and putting it together, and having the foil adds a lot of sparkle. Just a simple ribbon. This is 2 die cuts, and honestly, every time I look at a card, I count how many times it needs to be run through the Stampin' Cut and Embossing folder. I have about 100 people on my list, and each time through starts adding up a lot. This card that I showed a little while ago is really a lot of fun. It's a couple of times through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss machine, but it really is a fun design. It's kind of thrifty on the paper too, although it does use a large piece of designer series paper. A lot of times I'll design a card that doesn't have any designer series paper, and this is one of those cards, but this did need to be run through 2 times through the die cutting machine. This card needed to be run 1 time through the embossing machine, and it's got a punch. I find that punches are quite a bit faster than die machines, so that's a good choice. So you want to pick a stamp set, and this mini catalog has a lot of stamp sets for Christmas in here, and it might spark your interest. There's something for everybody. You may find something like this, and you can copy these cards exactly if you'd like. You can also look down here for color combinations. So whether you use this set or not, you may look at this color combination, or you can look at any of the designer series papers and help pick a color combination. This would be really beautiful. You can also just look around, look at wrapping paper, look at magazines and ads for their color combination. We also have this handy tool that has color combinations for you, and I'll put a link for this on my website, and you can just print it out on cardstock or I guess regular paper. This is made by Stampin' Up!, but it's a free download to print up yourself. And remember, if you make a square card, the post office will charge you extra. And also, if you have lots of thick embellishments or several layers of Stampin' Dimensionals, that can cost extra too. So you want to keep that in mind. So the first thing you want to do is make a list. This is sort of my real list, but I mixed up first and last names. But you want to count how many are on your list. And this is obviously only a partial list, since I said I make over 100. But say this was your list and there's 26 on here, because you're probably going to use a half a sheet of cardstock for a card base. You want it in a multiple of 2, but also those large layers that I talked about, those are usually 4 or 6 to a sheet. So multiples of 4, or better yet, multiples of 12 would be a good idea. This is just over 24. I don't know if you want to go to 36 cards, but you'd probably want to go to at least 28. That gives you a couple of extra cards so that if somebody you forgot sends you a card, you have one ready to give to them. I have this chart available on my website. So if you get card bases, a pack, you'll get 48 card bases from a pack of 24 sheets of cardstock. So if you figure this is how many cards you're going to make, if you're making 24 cards, you have plenty in one pack of cardstock. But if you're making 72 cards, you're going to want a second pack of cardstock. I've got a piece of basic white, and if I'm using basic white for my card base, I want the thick basic white. And I will put the cardstock in my cutter at 4 1/4, and I usually score the full sheet, and then you can actually turn it this way and do 2 at a time to cut at 5 1/2, and that gives you 2 card bases. Your design may use the other way of cutting it in half, so you might want to score it at 5 1/2 and turn it this way, and again you can do 2 at a time and cut at 4 1/4, and that gives you this long way. And you can also do some very simple fun folds. So this is 5 1/2. Half of 5 1/2 is 2 3/4. So you can score this way. And do a fun fold. And you can put a large layer on top of that. If you are doing a card base that is a dark color, you're going to want to plan on a large layer for the inside so that you can write or stamp on it. You may want a large layer for the front. This is a layer that I use a lot, and I will cut it at 4 and again at 4. And as I mentioned, you can cut 2 layers at a time. And when you're making lots of cards, you want to do as few cuts as possible. So this is 5 1/4. So you can get 4 of these from one sheet of cardstock. And those go very nicely on a card front. If you're working with designer series paper, this is a really, like I said, designer series paper is a really nice way of choosing your colors. In this case, both of these colors are in this designer series paper. If you are using a large layer of designer series paper, you can get 6 off of a sheet of 12 by 12. Cutting it at 4. And 4. And this should be 4 also. Not a bad idea to check, but it is 4. and then again 5 1/4. The designer series paper, most of it is thinner than our cardstock, so you can do at least 3 layers at a time. And you do have a little bit of scrap left over. I love using designer series paper because it's pretty quick to cut it out and it does a lot of the work for you. But if you get a pack of designer series paper, you want to be sure that you can use every sheet for your Christmas cards if you've got a lot of people on your list. We also have 6 by 6 designer series paper. Again, you want to look, can you use all of the sheets? One of the things about the 6 by 6 though is if you are cutting out a large layer, you're going to have a lot of waste. This is actually enough to go on the flap of a card if you're interested. Or you can make your cardstock stretch by cutting up your 6 by 6 into 2 by 3 and maybe stacking them up some of the similar colors, like so. And there's about a zillion layouts that you can do with that. That will help your 6 by 6 designer series paper stretch. By the way, if you've got a dark cardstock or you want to use a large layer for the inside of your card base, the white paper comes 40 sheets instead of 24, and so you get 160 cards per pack. Don't forget to order envelopes. There is nothing like getting partway done with your Christmas card list and realizing that you need something else for your cards and you have to wait for your order to come. So be sure to order envelopes when you order the rest of your supplies. We have lots of embellishments, and this is from the annual catalog. We've got more in the mini catalog. If you are using embellishments, you want to be sure and check how many, because there's a wide variety of how many comes in a pack. So for instance, these are 20 to a pack, and these are maybe a little lumpy, so you might want to be careful about sending those through the mail. Butterflies are much flatter and will go through the postage easily. For ribbon, so if you were doing a large layer of ribbon and you want to put your ribbon around your card base, if you wrap it around the long way of your large layer and tie a bow, and I always like to use my third hand, if you use your ribbon wrapped around like this, you will use about 26 inches per card. 10 yards is 30 feet, and this is almost 2 feet of it, so you're going to need lots of ribbon if you go that way. You can tie a knot around a D block and just a knot instead of a bow. And by the way, my tip is always, if you pull one tight and then snug up the other one, it makes a pretty knot. And I usually do leave it attached to the spool, so there's not a lot of waste like that 1/2 inch. But if you cut this ribbon in half in the back, and you can wrap it around your card like that, you will get a pretty good punch for your ribbon, and that's only about 12 inches instead of 26. And I usually just put a little bit of adhesive on the back and then wrap it around. That's not a finished card by any stretch of the imagination, but I just wanted to show you about ribbon use. You can tie a simple, I call this kind of an air bow. If you find the middle and then make a loop, and you're not really tying a bow around anything, and then of course you're going to want to even it up and trim it up to the way you want. And with this kind of bow you would need to use a glue dot to put it on, one or two. So you would want to be sure and have glue dots available for you. And then you can put it anywhere. So let's put this layer on here. And you could put this bow anywhere and have your card practically done. This kind of bow, you'll need about 12 inches for this, so same as this one. You can tie a ribbon around the long way of a C block, much the way we did here. And maybe you didn't want the knot in the middle. You can decide this one's going to go this way, so maybe you want your knot here, so you can kind of see where to cut your ribbon. And I always, when I cut my ribbon apart, I cut it at an angle, and when I cut it from the C block, I cut those as a straight cut so I know which one's which. So going around the 4-inch, you'll need 10 inches. And then taking a piece of ribbon and just tying a knot, a single knot in it this way. And again, you can decide where on your card that you want your knot. And again, wrapping it around the back. Using your ribbon this way, it's only 7 inches of ribbon. So that's quite a difference between 7 and 26 inches. You can really make your ribbon stretch with a simpler knot. Don't forget Stampin' Dimensionals. I plan on at least 5 dimensionals for most cards, maybe up as many as 12. So get yourself plenty of dimensionals. They come 300 to a pack, and I figured 12 per card, so you might want to plan accordingly. You will want to get adhesive. I have run out of all my adhesive when I was making Christmas cards, and that was no fun. The Stampin' Seal Plus comes with 16.4 yards, whether you're using the regular Stampin' Seal or the Plus. So that's 590 inches, and I figured if you were doing 8 inches plus 8 inches for an inside layer, you need one for 24 cards. If you're making 120 cards, you probably want 3 refills. I have no way of computing how much liquid glue that you will need. This definitely is less expensive, and you can just do little tiny dots. So it does go a long way, but you want to be sure and have enough. You're going to use this one way or the other, so go ahead and buy some so you don't run out. And there was one time that I was making cards, and I was inking an embossing folder and then embossing with it, and I needed a lot of ink refill. So it's not a bad idea to go ahead and order the ink refill so you don't run out of ink in the middle. Here is the web address where you'll find the chart showing the supplies you'll need for making large batches of cards. You'll also find the free detailed directions to make 48 cards like this and the links for the products you'll need. Just click the links and you'll be taken to my online store at Stampin' Up! Click Home near the top of my page and you'll find lots of resources. Under Shop, you can find the products I offer to make crafting more convenient. how to get free products with my frequent shopper rewards, and a link to my online store at Stampin' Up. Click Inspiration to scroll all my projects back to 2011, most with detailed directions and videos. Though the products in those older projects have been retired, you may find techniques, layouts, or color combinations to inspire you today. If you're new to stamping, you might want to look at the basics. You'll find how to cut card bases and layers, what's special about Stampin' Up stamps, and some of my favorite tools. Under Organization, you'll find lots of free resources such as catalog tabs, labels and case inserts, color tools, and much more. You can take a tour of my craft wall. More organization means more time for stamping. You can learn about my Evernote notebook. I have a note for every current product that Stampin' Up has for sale right now. And you can sort them all by the type of product. You can search just for the stamps. You can search just for the designer series paper. You can search for the phrase that you want or an image that you would like to use. You can search all the products that come in a particular color. It really makes finding just exactly what you want very easy. And you can create your own notebook and search through all of the things that you own to find just what you need. Come stamp with me here in Ventura County, California, or get the best deal of all and join my team of crafters. The team is called SIP Together, and it stands for Stamps, Ink, and Paper Together. The team is made of crafters who want to save money on the products they buy, share with a few friends, or start a Stampin' Up business like mine. Be sure to subscribe to my website and on my YouTube channel. I'd love to hear your comments. Thanks for joining me. Talk to you soon.